Have you ever wondered what life was like for soldiers during World War II? Beyond the dangers of combat, the soldiers also had to endure the threat of diseases due to poor hygiene conditions. But what was life like for soldiers on the front lines? How did they cope with the stench of war and the limited resources available to them? Let's take a disturbing look at the awful hygiene during World War II and explore the measures taken to combat this invisible enemy. In times of war, soldiers face not only the risk of death in combat, but also the danger of contracting diseases due to poor hygiene conditions. The precarious living conditions of soldiers during the Second World War resulted in diseases that posed a greater threat than the weapons of war. To combat this invisible enemy, governments of different countries had to launch awareness campaigns and implement sanitary measures. Venereal diseases were a common issue among army troops, and soldiers often sought the company of women and alcohol to relieve the stress of war, leading to ailments ranging from rashes to death. Both sides took various measures to tackle this problem. During World War II, Nazi Germany implemented a system to prevent the spread of venereal diseases among its soldiers. Professional ladies, women prisoners, and convicts were approved by doctors and housed in controlled establishments, where the German army could identify the infected and implement severe punishments for those who violated sanitation rules. However, despite these measures, the German army registered 250,000 cases of venereal diseases between 1939 and 1943. In contrast, the US Army relied on awareness campaigns to encourage soldiers to wear protective gear and avoid venereal diseases. Both World War I and II saw soldiers suffer from trench foot, a disease caused by prolonged exposure to wet, muddy soil, and inadequate footwear. The disease caused severe blisters, nerve damages, ulcers, gangrene, and even amputations if left untreated, and was a significant problem for soldiers on the front lines. The physical symptoms of a severe condition called trench foot are described as both disgusting and painful. It begins with a slight tingling and itching sensation that eventually leads to numbness and pain. As the feet start to swell, they turn reddish or blue in color. The tissue and muscles in the feet become macerated, emitting a smell of decay and causing blisters and sores that can easily become infected. In modern times, the importance of oral health is widely recognized, but during the Second World War, dentists and their work were not given the significance they deserved. However, their contributions were critical to the success of combatants, as dental problems could cause immense pain and negatively impact overall health. The dedication and hard work of these dental professionals not only helped soldiers perform their duties, but also ensured their well-being for the future. These unsung heroes truly embody the term heroes without a cape. During the Second World War, dental officers were an essential part of each army division, performing millions of procedures, including restorations, extractions, and dentures. However, soldiers considered dental care a nuisance, believing it did more harm than good. Dental officers had to remain close to the front lines but far enough to avoid danger. They worked in cramped mobile camps under miserable conditions but achieved remarkable results with the medical knowledge and technology available. The war led to new treatments, including the use of penicillin, tyrothricin, and streptomycin, and soldiers were taught to brush their teeth daily and use toothpaste. Disney, a well-known entertainment company, also played a role in the war effort by creating training films for soldiers. Despite the company's struggles, it signed a contract with the Navy to create 20 training films on subjects ranging from hygiene to identifying enemy planes. By 1943, over 90% of the company's work was related to the war effort. During World War II, the US government used propaganda to encourage patriotism and support for the war effort. Short films were created that portrayed the enemy as immoral or inhuman, using caricatures and racist concepts. Titles such as Why We Fight and The New Spirit were used to motivate soldiers and encourage tax payments. However, one film stood out, Der Fuhrer's Face by Walt Disney, which won an Oscar in 1943. The film showed Donald Duck's nightmare of working in a Nazi munitions factory, saluting fascist leaders, and eating stale bread. Donald wakes up realizing it was a dream and embraces his freedom as an American citizen. Soldiers and sailors endured inhumane conditions using steel war machines, regardless of their location. The submarines were especially challenging, with a noxious mix of diesel, sweat, and constant humidity that no amount of perfume could mask. There were no showers or laundry facilities, and the stench of rotting food only added to the discomfort. Half of the crew had no beds, and the limited space caused Blekkoller, violent hysteria attacks. Those who survived had nerves of steel and a sense of smell that could withstand the most extreme conditions. The situation inside the tanks did not improve, as the metallic containers emitted an unpleasant odor that made it difficult to endure, creating a sense of urgency to prevent vomiting. The 5 crew members were unable to take a bath here outside of the camp showers, and the festering smell of rancid odors emanated from the meat and entrails that were caught in the chains after passing over heaps of decaying human and animal bodies. Leaving aside the problems related to the obviously limited space available to their crews and the few food rations they could carry during the long transfers and intense battles, the greatest fear of these soldiers was to hear the rumble of an enemy anti-tank gun, as rarely anyone survived the impact of that armor-piercing ammunition. The infantry soldier's hygiene is scummy everywhere. A soldier in a dangerous situation undoubtedly didn't care about their smelly clothes or how long it had been since they had a bath. The most crucial thing on the battlefield is to fight and stay alive, right? Most people were surprised to learn that whenever they had the chance, the high commanders of each division taught their soldiers proper and consistent hygiene, despite the fact that these beneficial routines only require a few minutes in the morning. Since the war had taught them that illnesses killed more of their fellow soldiers than the enemy's own bullets, many of these men understood the value of caring for their bodies. Since dangerous chemicals could seep through even the smallest openings in gas masks, shaving one's face was among the most popular habits to ensure that they worked properly. The welfare of the troops depended on other factors too, like foot care because of the evil trench foot, and oral hygiene with instructions to brush teeth at least once a day. On the other hand, insects were spreading diseases by adhering to clothing, so mobile laundromats were developed so that soldiers could wash and properly disinfect their uniforms. These semi-trailer-like vehicles were equipped with the gear needed to wash up to 125 pounds of laundry an hour and quickly disinfect up to 100 uniforms, stopping the spread of lice. An insecticide known as DDT was used to eliminate mosquitoes, mites, and other insects for pest control, along with efforts to keep soldiers' uniforms clean. DDT was a highly demanded product that in the late 1940s was made widely available. Anyone who has not experienced firsthand the hardships that active military personnel endure in times of war would not understand the crucial role that hygiene plays in achieving victory. However, you never know what new dangers lurk in upcoming war conflicts. All of these events have led to the current adequate health systems for the brave men of the military. Thanks for watching our video about the hygiene conditions that soldiers faced during World War II. We hope you learned something new about the struggles they endured beyond the dangers of combat. It's important to remember the sacrifices of those who fought for our freedom and the measures taken to combat this invisible enemy. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like, leave a comment, and subscribe to this channel for more fascinating and surprising happenings in our history. See you in our next video.